Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi guys, welcome to the 60-second episode of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. So how is everybody doing on this beautiful, gorgeous day? And of course, I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, even if it's stormy and rainy, who doesn't love a good rain shower? I always say I love the contrast that the rain provides because without it, we might not appreciate the feeling of the sun shining on us quite as much as we do. So I'm wondering today, and really been thinking about this a lot, how are you doing? How are you handling the changes we've been through? How are you handling 2020? I mean, it's been a year full of twists and turns, and it's been kind of chaotic for pretty much everyone. And there are some, though, that have been hit harder than others, but I think for everyone, the anxiety level has been pretty high. I mean, if you already had stress in your life, 2020 is not helping that. Now, some of us are anxious and pretty terrified of getting COVID, and some of us are anxious about losing our job. Some are worried about how to manage the kids being home from school, and others are trying to explain to the kids why they have to wear a mask all day and can't hug anyone. I'm a hugger, so I feel you. Now, some are upset we have been mandated to wear masks, and others are upset because some aren't taking things as serious as they are. But you know what? Every single person, including you, is doing the very best with what they have been given. Pat yourself on the back. You really are doing the best you can do. Sometimes I get upset over the thought of someone mandating I have to wear a mask. Now, I had to do some soul searching as to why that bothered me so much. What I came up with and I realized is that growing up in a religion that enforced strict rules where you were publicly shamed for not following them makes me a little sensitive to certain rules as an adult. But you wouldn't know that if you walked past me on the street. I mean, I can remember a time when I was a young teenager. I had a role in front of hundreds of people at one of our church events. Now, it was an all-day event, and my part was in the afternoon. And at that time, girls would put gel in their hair to make it kind of curly, so it had sort of a wet look. I mean, I thought it looked fabulous. On top of that, I was nervous and excited about my part. Well, at the lunch break, my dad pulled me aside, and he said, look, the minister that's head of the event, He doesn't like the way your hair looks. He didn't like that I had the wet look. So I needed to brush it out in order to still keep my part. Now, if you're a girl, you can understand how awful that looked after brushing it out and how insecure I felt at that point. So that's just one minor example of some of the rules that I had growing up. So I carry beliefs from my past that make the mask mandate just a little bit harder. But you wouldn't know that, again, if you passed me on the street. Now, someone else may have elderly parents that live with them. And so wearing a mask to them is crucial. And in their eyes, means the difference between life and death. But again, you wouldn't know that if you passed them on the street. So what I'm trying to say is we never know what someone else is struggling with or why they're struggling, especially strangers. I mean, we are all carrying a certain set of beliefs, certain ideas that have been wired into our brain depending on how and where we were raised. If there's something you're especially struggling with, keep in mind you're probably not alone. So many are having real super anxiety right now. And I was talking with a friend last week, and she told me of a story how they as a family have been really trying to eat super healthy and stay away from sugar because they wanted to, not get sick. But she had a little minor breakdown and decided to sneak over to Ben & Jerry's where she ordered an ice cream to go. Well, they promptly handed her a little wooden spoon, which of course she wasn't going to eat with that because who knows if that was even safe. So then she had to get the ice cream home where she stuck it in her purse so no one would see her and snuck in the kitchen for a spoon, then went upstairs in her room and ate it in the dark, burying the evidence deep at the bottom of the garbage bin so her family wouldn't find it. All of this due to the stress of COVID. And she's someone that really does seem to have it all put together. I bet most of us can relate to that, more of us than would admit anyway. So look, no one has it all figured out. And the best thing you can do right now is take care of yourself. And that doesn't just mean physically. It means you have to take care of yourself mentally, especially right now. I talked a little bit earlier about my struggle with the mask mandate and figuring out why it had been so hard for me. Sometimes just recognizing why you feel a certain way allows you to deal with it. I mean, if I had just let it go and not done any thought work on it, could have festered and gotten out of hand because this has gone on quite a long time. Now, a lot of times we create a majority of our anxiety out of things that are never going to happen. I mean, I'll share with you what I do when I feel especially anxious. I have a few questions that I ask myself, okay? The first one is this something I will be worried about next year at this time? Most often, the answer is no. Second one is worrying about this problem going to make it better? A majority of time, again, the answer is no. And finally, I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Then I think about the things that could happen. And if I can deal with them, then it isn't so bad. So to give an example of how I've used this question in my design world, let's say I'm using a new trendy paint color and I'm anxious about it because I do get anxious about those things. The worst that could happen more than likely is I have to pay for a new coat of paint. I can handle that. But if you put a very trendy fabric on a non-returnable sofa, now that's a couple $1,000 mistake, and I just don't want to handle that. All right, so try asking those questions to yourself the next time you're feeling anxious. It really does help. So just to end on a good note, there have been lots of studies on how many of our worries actually come true, and it turns out most of them do not. 91% of them, in fact, do not come true. I bet you can think of 10 things off the top of your head right now that you worried would happen and never actually did. I know I can. All right, guys, I hope this helped. I love you, and I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.